Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's fantastic to have you on board. It is my great pleasure to introduce you to the team this morning. You will see a whole lot of happy faces on the screen, or you should be seeing that. And the main speaker for today is Joni D'Amelio. Joni has been with Data Prime for 3 years now, and she's worked all over the place, including support, in training. She's done lots of demos, and she's currently part of the templates development team. And Joni, I just want to take this opportunity on air to thank you for your wonderful contribution to Draftworx. It's a formidable piece of software. We all know that. And it's not just built by one or two or three people. It's built by a whole team. And you've played a significant role in that. So thank you very much. And we look forward to your presentation. We know that you have been preparing. You and your team have been preparing for today. You've spent many, many days and burning the late night candle. And we just thank you for that. And so I think without much further ado, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Shane. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Joni, and as you guys know, today's topic is RAC introduction. So it's a bit more of a serious topic today. What I will be doing is I'm going to go through the more critical documents that we have here in RAC. So it's the ones that's a lot integrated and it's highly automated, right? So it's the ones that fits in quite together with one another. So I'm going to touch on those today because it's very important for me that you guys do understand what is the workflow of RAC, right? So hopefully by the end of today, you guys are going to be all RAC experts, and then you can continue with your audits and conduct it as you should, right? With me today, I also have Tina and Mariandre. Now, these two ladies, they are from the support side. It's only two of our RAC experts that we have on the support side. I wish I could borrow everybody today. Unfortunately, as you know, the show must go on. So I was only able to get two ladies today, right? They both have quite the extensive audit and RAC experience. So please rest assured, when you do deal with them, you are in good hands, okay? We also have the Q&A running today with Clarissa, and Mariandre is running that for us. Thank you so much, ladies. I just want to ask you guys, if you do have a RAC question, please just add your email address as well. It's just in case you do have more bit of a technical answer that you require, then I will come back to you at a later stage. With that being said, I'm going to switch off my camera, share my screen, and then we can start with the webinar. Okay, so what does RAC mean? Well, simply put, for those of you who don't know, RAC stands for Risk Assessment Per Component. So it's very self-explanatory. As you know, we do follow a risk-based approach. Then, going on to Draftworx. What you will see over here is our electronic review dashboard. Now, later on, Tina is going to go a bit more into detail on this one. She's just going to show us some cool tips and tricks on the electronic review, but this is basically just a summary of it. Okay, so I'm not going to go through that in detail. If you guys want a lot of information on it, earlier, we did do a very nice webinar. The basics and the advanced do cover this in detail. All right. But I do feel it's a very awesome feature for any audit to use as well. Okay. Then what you will see is we have a menu, right? So where are you now going to find these RAC documents? Okay. You will see we have a menu for those of you who are not familiar with Draftworx. The menu over here gives us everything that is applicable to your file. Now, I'm not going to go through how we created the file and how we got to the working papers, right? You can go back to the basics webinar where we did deal with that. But the menu, the menu that you are going to deal a lot with is the working papers menu. So please familiarize yourself with this menu and where the location is, because for the new trainees, this is going to be your new home. So you're going to live in this working paper menu for the next 3 to 5 years, right? So please note where it is. Okay, then what you will see is we list all of the working papers, all right? So we list everything that we can currently see. When we create a file, this is what you will see. Okay, firstly, you will see there's finalization. Right, now we've put finalization first. Why? Because we feel that is the most important section of the working paper, because ultimately you are going to use finalization to get to your audit result, and ultimately it's going to impact your audit opinion, right? That's why it's first. Then we have section 10, right? So we have other sections as well. This is the planning sections. I will touch on a few everywhere. As I mentioned, I'm only going to go through the critical ones, but please don't now feel that because I'm only going to go through the critical ones, you are going to lose out on something. That is not the case, right? We did do a very, very detailed webinar series a while back where we did record it and we added that to YouTube, right? So Shane mentioned as well earlier that we do have a YouTube channel where we add all of these videos. Now, on each and every working paper, we went and we added in the videos applicable to that document, to that specific working paper, and you can go directly to that working paper on the exact same timestamp as well, right? So you're not going to lose out on anything, right? But I am going to show you all the critical ones that you need to deal with. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go through the very first one, section 10. So that's 10.00, engagement, acceptance, and continuance. Okay, quite a mouthful. Okay, upon opening a working paper, you will see we have a few standard things that we have on each working paper. There is an exception on this working paper where we have the copyright notice. So you're only going to find this on this document, and maybe I did see them on one of the sample working papers, right? But you're not going to find it a lot. If you don't want it open, it's fine. You don't have to see it all the time. On the left-hand side, you will see there's a minus with a line. That is called a grouping. If you don't want to see it, simply click on that minus, and then you will see the grouping will close down. Okay. Then the other thing, next to the name of the working paper, you will see there's also a number, right? If you click on that plus, you will now see the grouping opens up for you and you see some details on your client. So it's your client's name, what area you're auditing, their date, and then later on when we are going to sign off electronically, then it's going to be listed here. Now, the aim is not for this grouping to always be open, right? That's why we close it down. It's more if you want to maybe print out your working paper when it's done, right? It may be helpful for you to also have the information over here. Okay, so this is what it's for. Just going to keep it open for now, just to show you later on if we want to prepare. I'm just going to log out also quickly. All right. Then in terms of coloring, now the coloring in Draftworx is super important. So you can see already now there's a lot of color over here. Now, in terms of the coloring, right, in terms of the coloring, what you will see is where you find darker gray cells. So usually that has to deal with the headers and the actions and so on. So you will see on each working paper, you'll see there's action 1, action 2, action 3, and we tell you exactly what needs to happen under these actions. Then we have the light gray. So the lighter gray usually is like the subheaders. The second header, it deals with questions. You will see usually there's a question or ISA requirement even, right? So this is what the light gray is for. Usually they are locked anyway. You can't change them anyway, right? On the light blue cells, these are input cells, okay? This is where you can go and document. They are not locked, but the intention here is we do expect for you to go and perhaps complete something over there. Now, you need to use your professional judgment in deciding whether you need to go and complete that specific cell, right? We do guide you. We do give you a lot of questions. It doesn't mean that you now need to go and complete each and everything. You need to make use of your professional judgment, okay? Now, for some of us, we need a bit more years. We're still maybe a junior trainee today, and this may sound very intimidating to you. Those words are actually very intimidating because you never know what is professional judgment. Okay, but hopefully you guys all have great managers and partners who will be able to guide you. Then the darker blue cells, right? These are very, very cool cells. So what they do is they do the exact same as the light blue cells. They are input cells. But what they further do is when you go and complete a dark blue cell, it goes and it puts the data that you've documented there in a nice little database. And when you roll that file forward to the next year, it's going to bring that data forward. Right. So then in the next year, you don't have to go redocument everything. You can simply go and read through it and see what is still applicable, what is still valid, and so on. Right. So it's very, very nice to use the roll forward cells. Okay. We help you so that from the next year, it is not as much work, right? Because it's easier and more efficient to just read through it rather than documenting for the first time. Right, yellow cells. Yellow cells, so they are easy identifiable. This is where we require you to do some input, okay? Either you need to go and put in, document something, or you will see there's a drop down where you need to go and complete something. Usually, this is a cell that may pull through the conclusion or something like that to another working paper, right? So where you see yellow cells, please go and complete it, right? Because it will affect another working paper at some stage. Red cells. Now this red, it may look a lot intimidating, but the red cell is where you may have inputted something correctly. So you may have made a decision earlier, but now you change your decision and now there's a whole lot of red cells. Okay. If you do see that, just clear the cell and then that will also disappear. All right. So don't let it intimidate you. We just warn you, listen, you selected something. It may not be the correct selection. Please just clear the specific cell. Right. Then white cells. White cells you cannot do anything about. They are locked and they are usually some type of result. Maybe we calculated something somewhere and we maybe draw the result from some other working paper or other sheet. Right. Then the tan orangey color. So for today, we'll just call it tan, but it looks like orangey. These are information cells. It's a warning. Sometimes it's a warning message. Because sometimes we do see what you're doing on your file. And then based on what you've selected, we're like, we can see what you're doing, but maybe we consider maybe just reading through the ISAs again. And then we try to warn you on that. Right. So again, you can use your professional judgment on whether you want to follow that or not. But at least we do try to guide you in doing the right thing, or maybe just help you to consider something else. All right. So this is what the coloring means on RAC. All right. So please make sure a note of this because you may get confused on them on some of the working papers. Right. Right. Now, here you can see action 1. Again, we said the darker blue cells, it's actions, right? So you can see that is quite true. Okay. First question. The very first question you will see it's asking, is the engagement a new engagement or a continuing engagement? Right. Now, there's a yellow cell. So we've learned now where there's a yellow cell, that is a mandatory cell, and we require for you to go and complete it. Simple as that. There is a nice drop down. So then you will see it's either a new engagement or a continuing engagement. Right? Only 2 options, very easy. So remember, this working paper, you need to go and assess at the end whether you are going to accept the client. You went through all of the procedures and you decided, you know what, I didn't find any fishy with this client. I am going to continue with this client. But we need to go through the assessment first. Now, let's say this is a new engagement. I'm going to select new engagement, right? You will see now the yellow disappeared. But a new hyperlink is added for us, okay? We need to go and follow the hyperlink, complete the working paper, all right? Because remember, Draftworx helps you to make sure that you do follow the ISAs, okay? So I'm going to now click on the hyperlink. So where you see a dark blue, the wording which is underlined, you will see that is a hyperlink. So that's how you're going to identify a hyperlink. So I'm going to click on it. Okay. So now it's taking me to a working paper. There's a whole lot of questions that I need to go complete, right? There's quite a lot. You need to go speak to the previous auditor just to see, what is the reasons, why did they leave the previous auditor? Maybe there's something weird with them, right? Then you will see again, there's a whole lot of yellow cells for you to go complete. So it's mandatory cells. We ask you, please complete it, all right? I'm going to go up again. If I go back to the working paper and you're like, you know what, I made a mistake. We have now had our pre-engagement meeting and the manager or the partner told me, you know what, please roll forward the file. This is actually a continuing client, but you just didn't know it. You can go and change it. You can say, you know what, this is continuing. And now you see that is now, the hyperlink now disappeared, right? If I go now back to that working paper, then 01, you will see now it tells you, well, this is not a new engagement. It's a continuing engagement. So this document is no longer applicable, right? So we help you in telling you and help you so that you don't do too much work. All right. So yeah, you can just go and say, you know what, this is a continuing engagement. This working paper is not applicable. I'm going to mark it as not applicable. So I'm going to mark it as not applicable. On the right-hand side, you will now see there's a not applicable option for you. So I'm going to click on not applicable. Okay. What you will now see is it will still remain in the list over here. So you will see 10.01, new engagement, predecessor auditor review. It will still remain, but it will be highlighted in blue. Okay. If you don't want it there, all right, I'm going to show you a cool little trick, but please remember if you do this, all right, you can go to client setup and then you can click on electronic review. Okay. Then you can the third option you'll see it's a little eye, right? It's like actually a big eye, right? It says view not applicable. So if you don't want to view any of these working papers that's marked as not applicable, you just click on the eye so that it's deactivated. So now you will see, well, voila, it's no longer there, right? But I'm saying, please remember, if you do that, because sometimes you accidentally go and mark it as not applicable, and then you go into a panic, and then you're like, why did Draftworx delete my working paper? But Draftworx didn't delete your working paper, it's just hidden, right? So then you can just go and switch it on again, and then you go, there you go, it will be there again. So please don't go into a panic, just always go make sure if you actually did mark this as applicable or not. All right. Okay. That is that for the electronic review. Again, Tina is going to go through it a bit later on again. So then you can now go through the working paper, a lot of blue cells. You see these light blue cells. You can then now go through the questions that we pose to you, right? And see what you need to see what you need to go and do. So this one again, here's a yellow cell. So on this specific one, you will see here in the formula bar, right? It's locked. You cannot do anything on this cell. You need to follow the working paper here above, complete the questions, then that result will pull through in here. Okay. Same as if you scroll a bit down, you see there's more hyperlinks for you where you can go and complete a specific working paper, right? There's more results here that Draftworx require. So let's look at the first one. So this is in terms of the EQR. So if I now follow that link, you will see there's a nice little EQR working paper. I'm just going to zoom in. A very cool trick. If you want to zoom in, you can hold Control in on your keyboard, and then on your mouse, the scroll, you can just scroll in and out. Right, that's a very cool trick. Right. Then on this specific page, so this page is still within this 10.00 working paper. Okay, so here you can now go and assess, document all the policies and procedures in terms of ISQ M1, right? So what is your policies regarding when an EQR is required? So EQR, it's an engagement quality reviewer for those of you who don't know. Okay, so when in terms of your firm policies, when will the quality reviewer be required? All right, I know there's lots of firms with different opinions and different policies. but you can go and document it. So then again, here we see a nice little yellow cell, right? So then you can go and say, you know what, EQR, based on our policies, EQR is to be formed, not be formed. It's not even required, right? So I'm just going to conclude my, no, it's not required. And then you can go back. So if I go now back to 10.00.01, there you go. Now the conclusion has pulled through. So that yellow cell is now white, right? So you cannot think that you are going to print out a working paper in RAC and then think that you're going to go and have an appropriate conclusion at the end of the audit, right? Draftworx RAC has been designed to be automated and it has been designed to be integrated. Okay, so please remember that if you do chippo or skip something on RAC, it is going to either not pull through to another working paper, it's going to break another working paper, and you may end up having to contact support, right? Lastly, on each working paper, it's very, very important that you know this, is the guidance sheets. Now, Dalian, who is also on the template team, as well as Damien, they've worked quite hard on their guidance sheets. Now, the guidance sheets, just zooming in again, the guidance sheets guides you on what you need to do on each and every working paper. So this is your audit Bible, right? This is your audit manual, right? Currently, we do not have a manual. We are working on a manual, but as time goes, time does not allow for us to work on it, but we are in the process of working on one, right? So it should come in the future. I won't be able to give you a time on it, but we are working on one, right? But for now, this is going to be your audit Bible. This is your RAC Bible, okay? So firstly, we give you the objective and then we tell you, okay, what you need to do. Then very important, and actually this is very cool, this is the link to the training video. It takes you to the exact place, the exact timestamp where we discuss this video in a lot of detail. So we go through this working paper in detail. We go through most of the questions. We tell you how to complete it. So we assist you on it. So there's really no reason for you to not understand what a working paper is supposed to do, how you need to complete it, because we do give you the training videos. All right. So this is going to be your Bible. Guidance, right? Here we tell you the guidance. Then at the bottom, very much at the bottom, we go and we list all of the ISOs that is addressed within this working paper, right? So if you don't agree with us, please let us know. We will consider in changing them. We are always there to improve on any product that we have. Okay. But now you will see there's ISO 200. It addresses 14, 16, 18, and 19. And we actually go and we list the paragraphs and what it says, right? So please go and read through it. We guide you quite a lot. So your last option should be to contact support, because we do provide you with all of the requirements and the guidelines for you to go and have a look at. Right. I always say, if you can read, you can audit. Right. Audit is not hard, but if you can read the ISOs, you will be able to conduct an audit, right? Especially if you're a first-year trainee, it's quite intimidating for the first year. Here is everything for you. We provide you with everything. Okay, so please don't worry that you're ever going to struggle. Okay. Then the next one, I'm just going to close this one. Oh, I almost forgot. I need to complete some of the yellow cells over here. I'm going to go down. All right, down, you will see the partner needs to go and conclude, am I going to accept this client or not? So we ask you, based on the procedures you performed, you are willing to accept it or not. All right. Then the second question, we just want to make double sure that you also want to accept the client. So we just ask you again, please finally confirm, do I accept or decline the client? So you may go through the client. I know when I was still in practice, I reached researched the hell out of my clients. I looked on their Facebook pages, I Googled them. I just always wanted to make sure that we want to deal with this client, because that is just part of a good quality audit, right? So we don't want to put ourselves at risk. So I usually just go and research a lot of things on my client, right? This is how you get to the conclusion at the end, right? Please remember that. It's very, very important for you to go and conclude over here, because if you don't conclude, it may impact another working paper, right? So please, please go and do it. It may even prohibit you from populating audit programs, right? And I know a lot of you go into panic when you can't see the audit programs, but you need to do planning, right, properly, okay? And that is 10.00. Okay, next one is I want to show you guys, we have a nice little RAC workflow document. So it's a PDF that we added to the files. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. So if you don't know how to zoom in, you'll see there's a green plus. I'm just going to click on it, and then you can see. Now, this is a very cool document in my opinion, because what it does is we list all of the working papers on this document. So you'll see if I scroll to the right, everything is here that you need, that you're going to work on, may or may not work on. But then we tell you, okay, this is the pre-engagement activities. This is based on engagement and team setup. And then we list all of the working papers for you. Planning, we have risk identification as well as risk assessment. And then we list everything for you, right? So you should not know what not to do, where not to do it, all right? Same with execution, audit programs. Same with reporting, which is finalization. We list everything for you. Very easy. Okay. But now, why is this document so cool? All right. Let me show you. Let's look, for instance, at 1010 planning materiality. Now, on this document, we aim to show you when you complete materiality, where does that go to? So if you go to one of the other working papers, and you're like, why is materiality not pulling here? You can go and have a look. This is materiality, all right? From 1010, I need to complete 1020. I can follow my green line. And then you will see, oh, it goes somewhere, someplace as well. So then you can follow the green line, follow. Oh, 1605. So you also need materiality to be done to open 1605, right? Same as on, let's say, 1240, very critical documents. If you did not complete 1240 and 1245, the conclusion that you have on 1240 and 1245 will not pull through section 13. And then section 13, actually, if you follow the line, it's going to the risk register. So if you missed all of this, it's not going to go to the risk register. So this is where you can see how everything fits in, follow the line, and what you need to do. Okay, so please, this is a very cool document. I think it's a very nice idea for you to print this out, laminate it, give it as a gift to your trainees, and just let them have it with them at all times. I know when I first started, I received like a PI score with a laminated PI score on how to calculate it, and I still have it. It's like years and years have gone by, and I still have it. And this should do the same for you, all right? Even if you're a first-year trainee, you may not even end up doing planning in your first 2 years, but you will still know where what fits in. I mean, if you come to the audit program, you know what? The audit program is not really done as it should be because maybe the senior did not do this and this and this. Right. So please use this one. It's a very cool document to use. All right. You can print it out. You can save it. You will see here at the top, you can save it. You can print it out and then just have it nearby at all times. Okay. So again, we provide you with all of the resources. You do not have to struggle. Okay, then the next critical document. That is, as you know, 1010 planning materiality. Okay, materiality will always be critical, right? But we included it this early in our engagement because on the next document that we're going to complete, that is 1020, we actually do need materiality, as I shown you, right, on our nice little workflow document. You need materiality to go and identify your audit sections. So that's why we included it still under the pre-engagement activities. So a few things to note, right? We try as much as possible and as accurately as possible to pull in the detail of all the bases for you. So you see here, we have amounts in already. So it basically pulls from the TV. But in reality, you need to go check whether the amounts that we have over here, it does in fact agree to the financial statements, right? To the draft financial statements. Remember, we're auditing draft financial statements. So you need to go check, right? So it may be something as small as you linked something incorrectly and there's a difference. Or it may even be something where we did something wrong. So that's why we added in the blue cells, because it may be that you need to go change them, right? Please always confirm the amounts that they do agree to your draft financial statements. It's very important, okay? You don't want to set materiality on the incorrect figures. You may end up redoing your audit. Okay, it's just in case there's some funny linking or anything like that. Okay, at the top again, we have a setting over here. So this is to facilitate your calculation. Now, we give you 3 options where you can use, which you can use as a comparison. There's 3 options. So if I now go put that one in interim, because that's absolutely an option, you can go and select, you know what, I am doing an interim audit, right? And then you will see here on the left-hand side, the interim figures will pull through. Okay, mine is not pulling because I didn't import the interim audit, interim figures, interim TB. So to import a TB or interim audit, please go do the basics webinar. Super easy to do that anyway. Okay. So you can go and select the period. So usually, obviously, by definition, an interim is just the amount of periods. So you can go and say, you know what, I only want to do 10 months for now, and I'll do the other 2 months later on. So you can do that. When you do that, we do extrapolate the amounts for you, right? I'll show you later how it looks when we extrapolate, but we do extrapolate it for you. But I just want to deal with this annoying red cell, right? So remember, earlier I said when there's a red cell, you basically need to go clear it or select something else, okay? So the reason why it's red is one of the 3 bases that we have here at the top is not also on opening, okay? So we are saying, okay, please now tell us which one of the 3 here you are going to use, okay? So you can see now none of the 3 here is actually on opening, okay? So I can either now go and say, you know what, it's interim, I'm going to use interim. And now you see the red cell disappears. So you can see now, if I made an incorrect option, it tells me, listen, you're not selecting the correct one because based on what you have selected, something is wrong. Okay, I'm going to put it back to opening. Let me just put that one to opening. See, now, again, red cell. Okay, I'm going to show you just how we extrapolate. So I want you to have a close look at sales. So the sales says it's 2.15 million, right? So I haven't extrapolated yet. So now I'm saying, you know what? It's only going to be 10 months, right? I'm going to do the other 2 later on. I'm going to say I have 10 months now, but it's going to be a full 12 years eventually when I get to the final audit. And now you will see it's now 2.5 million, right? So we actually extrapolated that amount so that you can get a bit more accurate type of figure, right? We only extrapolate on income statement items because we cannot accurately extrapolate to a balance at year end, right? So this is only applicable to income statement items, okay? So please be aware of that. Right. Then again, we ask you a very important question, which one of the three you're going to use. I'm just going to keep it on open. And then also very important, what is the nature of your entity? What is the broad nature of your entity? Now there's three options. So it's either profit-oriented, not-for-profit, or specialized. So it's very important that you do this correct selection here, because you when you have when we get to the table over here, where we provide you with the basis and the percentages, we will only give you the table that you have provided. So if you go and say non-profit, then you will see over here it's non-profit. It only gives you revenue expenses with the percentages. If you go select profit-oriented, you will see now different bases, different percentages. Okay, so it's very important for you to select the correct one. All right. Then we have the users, so you can go document a few. These are just examples. Please don't see this as it's set in stone. You need to document what relates to your client. And then you can go and make a comment. You can make a comment by saying, you know what, there's bearing, this stakeholder or this use of the financial statement does have bearing on the materiality. All right. Then again, you have your basis. Again, we have a nice grouping here to the left. If you want to add in your own basis, welcome to do that. You can then just go and copy in your amounts. Action 3, this is now where we're going to do our calculation. So you will see we list the basis and then the typical percentages. Now, these percentages, right, they are based on a very, very old guidance from SAICA. I think it's like 1984, something like that. But since then, we do understand that there has been a softening stance on the percentages, right? But we haven't received final feedback or proper feedback on what they may look like. Right, so we do understand you may want to change it, right? So if you do need to change it, please get in contact with support and they will change it for you, right? We are working on a feature in the future where you can go and set up your firm settings and then you can go and say, you know what, my firm policy is for gross profit to be on 3%. Please make gross profit 3%. So then you won't have to deal with the limitations that we have here. But we are waiting for more feedback on this. But for now, please just contact support on this one. Right. Then we have possible planning materiality. We calculate the possible planning materiality. Right. What you will see is we only provide you with a possible. You still need at the end to go and select your own materiality. We can only provide you with possibles. You need to use your professional judgment on what that should be. Okay. What we do in fact do is we do limit you and we do not let you exceed one of the possible materiality amounts that we list here. So I cannot, for instance, go and say, you know what, I want 30,000. Right? It's blocking me, right? That's because none of these are actually above 30, right? That's the simple reason. Okay, so you then need to go and choose one of these. So let me just say 25,000. You need to type it in. And then the same for the performance materiality. Again, you can go and type in the 75% or the 65 or whatever your firm policy is, right? So we don't limit you. You can make the decision based on your firm policy. Okay. Then again, there's a yellow cell. You need to document. So you need to say, you know what? I have selected a net profit. I am using 75% as performance. Why? Why am I saying I'm going to use net profit 75% and why will I be using 5%? Why will I be using 5% of the net profit? So you need to document, right? So remember, for those of you who have dealt with ERBA before, if it's not documented, it is not done. All right. Always document. As you know, auditing, it's a lot of documentation. Okay. Always document the method behind your madness. Okay. going down, specific materiality. We have some specific materiality that you can go and select. You can say, you know what, I feel I want to have specific materiality on PPE, and you can go and set that. So let me just make it, let's say, again, I cannot go beyond the possible. So I'm going to just say 10,000, and then there you go. Right, so now my total assets, or my PPE rather, is going to be 10,000. Going down, right, again, for the percentages, if you need to change them, I know where I worked at the firm, we had trivial as 5%, right? So this will also not be in line with my firm policy, right? So please contact support, then they will be able to assist you to change this, right? Because the system does limit you. You cannot go and put in 5%, right? You can only select between 0.5 and 1, okay? Please contact support. Then again, document the reason behind the madness behind your reason, right? Why are you saying you want to use 5%? Okay, please document. On this sheet as well, we do have an ACS detail sheet, right? This is not a working paper, right? It's just provided to give you some indication of how we arrived at the balances, how we calculated the balances. So you will see it looks actually a lot like the line items on the financial statement. So it's current assets, we list everything with the lead references and so on. Okay, so please make use of this if you want to. But it's not a document. You don't have to go and document everything over here, anything over here. Okay, then point 20. Okay, identification of the audit sections. Okay, we are gonna identify all of our audit sections on this working paper. Okay, open it. All right. So what you will see is on the left, we list all of your components. All right. This is not necessarily line items per your financial statements. All right. So it's not necessarily all of the revenue together and all of the cost of sales together. A good example is, for instance, payroll. Now, payroll may be part of cost of sales and it may be part of other expenses. But we went and we drew out the payroll so that we can list this as its own, basically, line item for audit, right? Because what we do is we rather go and create business cycles rather than listing them per the items on the financial statements. Because it may be that payroll has a different risk than revenue, or payroll may have a different risk than depreciation, for instance, or other expenses. So we do draw that out for you. Okay. Then we list the lead schedules. We list the amounts for you based on the TP that you imported, and then also the prior year. Okay. Now, this is where materiality comes in. We list all of the balances and all of the sections that is material, right? So if it's quantitatively material. So you can see now over here in the last column, you will see there is the materiality is 18,000. So when a balance is material, we indicate on your behalf for you, yes, that is material. All right. If you do not have a material amount, so look at investment income, that's not material, right? So we do say no, but then we go and further say, you know what, we understand it's not material, but please just also consider whether that is qualitatively material, right? So remember, is it material in nature, right? Is there some type of weird thing going on and it may be material in nature? So we just ask you, please just go and have a look at that. And that's why we add in the yellow cells. Okay. You can do that for the other sections as well, but at the minimum, because it is not material, we also ask you. Even if we do see, you know what, in the prior year you had a balance, it wasn't material. It may be that there may be some kind of issue over here. It may be completeness. We're not sure. All right. But we do ask you also, maybe it may be qualitatively material. You need to go and make that assessment. Then this column, right? This column, I know a lot of you don't like it, but this column is where we indicate to you, all right, if this section is applicable to the audit, right? Now, ISO 315, right, no longer really allows us, right? So basically, the decision to audit a non-material item can no longer happen before the risk assessment has been done. So in the past, right, when I still did my articles, in the past, what we did is, if a balance is not material, we chuck it into a completeness working paper. We're like, you know what, not going to focus on that. It's not material. Just kind of ignore it, put it in the background, and we're not going to do anything on it. Right. It can no longer happen on Draftworx, on ISO 314, not on Draftworx, but on ISO 315, it can no longer happen. Each and every balance needs to be considered for the risk assessment process. Only after you've done the risk assessment process can you now say, you know what, I didn't find the risk on this immaterial balance, and then you can start chucking it. Okay, so please remember that. We don't even allow you, if there's a balance, right? We don't even allow you to go and say no, right? We just say there is a balance. It is applicable to the audit, right? There was a balance in the prior year. It is applicable to the audit. So where there's a balance, it is applicable to the audit. Okay. Where you need to be a bit more careful, right, is things like, for instance, tax expense, right? So it may be that, yes, the client may be running at a loss, but they may be assessed loss, and you need to go and do the tax calculation, right? There's no balance, right? You may want to go and override this no and say, you know what, this is applicable to my audit because I actually need to go and do the calculation. I need to see, should there be tax? Is the company actually running at a loss? You need to go and do the work on it. So I would recommend always run through the list that we have over here. Go and have a look if something is not applicable to the audit, because this document is built for you to scope in and out the sections applicable to your audit. So you can even see we do list the references here for you. So if you have a look at depreciation, right, this is section 30. If you scroll a bit down, you will see now PPE, that's also section 30, right? So we try to keep the business cycles close together on one working paper, all right? So please always make sure that you go and have a look if your section is maybe not applicable, all right? Ultimately, you will see the sections that pulls here that will create your audit programs. So if you said no over here, it's not going to create that audit program, right? But please don't stress. You can always go and tick it on a later stage and then create the audit program. But then again, you need to go through the risk assessment process again, because it may be that there's now a balance as well, right? So carefully look through this document and see what you need to do, all right? Going down, just want to show you, for instance, on PPE. Remember, we said that we want specific materiality on PPE. So I just want to show you there's a nice drop down here. So if you click on the drop down, you will see there's all my specific materialities, right? So remember, I selected the total assets. So I can now say, you know what, for PPE, that is my materiality, okay? Because remember, at the end, it may not even be a material section, okay? So please have a look at this. Okay, going down. Please go through everything over here. Down here, you will see there's some special risk items like related parties and contingent liabilities, right? Please don't forget about cash flow. So I know everybody has been very, very busy with cash flows. So we do want to add this in the future, but for now, you need to add it yourself, right? But don't forget about it. You will see we automatically tell you know what, this is qualitatively material. That's just automatic, all right? You can go, if you have a really, really, really good reason and say, you know what, my related parties or my client is not qualitatively material, right? Not sure what reason there should be. You can go and say no and say, you know what, I'm not going to do that section. Okay, so you can do it on these sections, okay? But hopefully you guys don't do it, right? And related parties is always an issue. Okay. Lastly, at the bottom, you will see journals, right? So we added in journals as its own component. So remember, journals relates to ISO 240, where management's ability, where management has the ability to override the controls, right? So they can go and write journals as they please. There's no controls around it. So we have put journals as its own component. You do not have a choice whether you're going to mark it as applicable or not. It is applicable. And then you can only go and select whether it's qualitatively or not. Right, that's all you can go and do. So ultimately, basically, can do nothing on it. Okay, remember, you always need to do journals, right, because of ISO 240. Then at the top, you will also see you can also extrapolate the income statement. So remember, only the income statement item. So you can also extrapolate the figures over here. It's the exact same than what we have done on materiality. Okay. Right, so this is where you will scope in and out all your sections. All right, I think it's a very good working paper. Right. Then, okay, so I'm not going to go through all of the working papers over here. Again, please don't feel like you're missing out on something. We do have the videos. Right, but please don't now forget about all of these working papers. You still need to go and do the accounting framework. You still need to go do assess the independence and all those things. It's still important. Okay. Moving over to section 11. Right. Now, 11 and 12. So 11, 12, it relates a lot to understanding the entity. So basically, it's the gathering of info of your client in order to identify the risk. So we need to go and gather information on the client so that we can identify the risk. So this is what these two sections are about. They are very important because if you do not know your client, how are you going to raise the risks? Right. But most of the working papers, it works a lot the same, right? I'm not going to go through all of them once again, but I would like for you to know at least how to do an opening balance test. All right. So on Draftworx, when I was a first year trainee, I think it took me like 2 or 3 hours to do an opening balance test. Right. I just didn't understand the concept. Right. I'm going to ask Mariandra, I'm going to hand over to her, and then she's going to show you how you're going to do an opening balance test on Draftworx, and it should take you like 3 or 4 minutes to do it. All right. So, Mariandra, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Tony. I appreciate it. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mariandra here. You're still going to hear of me a bit later on again, but let's just start with a shorter one for now. So, as Johnny already showed, under working papers section 11, we have 2 opening balance working papers. So, they basically deal with different engagements. The first one would be a new engagement. So if the client is brand new to you, you have never audited them before, you will use the first one. I'm going to run you through the opening balance working paper of the continuing engagement. They will work quite similar to one another. So if we just go and open the working paper, this is the information that you will see. So Draftworx is quite nice here. It already pulls through the information from your working TB of the prior year. So if I can show you quickly, if you go to financial data and working trial balance, the values in the 2024 column. So I have 25 in 2024. That's the values that basically will pull through in my opening balance working paper in these cells here. Okay. At the top here, we can also go and select where the working TB is coming from. And then whatever we select, the column will automatically adjust to the other one. Okay. Then we have these blue cells. Please, you will note they are formulated, so don't go input the values in here manually. That just makes it a lengthy process all back to square one, and that's what we want to avoid with this working paper. We then also have a difference column. So this is simply for reviewing. You're not going to do anything in particular on the sheet. We're then going to jump over to the second sheet, which says alternate TB. And on here, we see a blank sheet with the account number, account name, and balance column. And this is where you will be pasting your TB that you get from an external source that you would like to compare to the prior year TB inside of Draftworx. So I'm just going to open up my working TB. And this is the working TB that I have. I don't want to include my headings as well, so I'm going to start and highlight the rest of the information. I just used my shortcuts, which is my shift control, down button, and side arrow. And then I can use my shortcut Control C to copy this information. So to copy the information, or I can right click and go copy it manually. It doesn't matter. However, when I get to the pasting of the information, I will not use Control V. The reason for that is you will be pasting the formatting from Excel as well, and not only the information. We only need the information. If you're going to paste the formatting as well, the cells will be locked on Draftworx, and with some of the working papers, it can even stop some of the functionality. So please remember to value paste. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. So inside of Draftworx, I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to Paste Special, and I see this menu popping up. I'm going to select Values and say Paste. So you will see immediately it pastes my information, and I don't have any funnies. It's just in there. Okay. If we now jump back to the first sheet that we looked at previously, I'm just going to close this menu. You will see that Draftworx automatically pulled in the information in line with the correct account. So it instantly sorts it for you. You don't have to go and try and figure out your TB. It's all good. And then in the difference column, it shows you the difference if there are any. So if you do see any differences in this column, then I would recommend you either go and check, did you paste the correct TB? Are you happy with the information in there? Or what's the reason behind these differences? If you are happy with the TB and they are actually legit differences, you can go to the third sheet where it lists all of the differences and where you can go and just add comments or document the reason for these differences and if they will be looked into or whatever the case may be. Okay, Joni, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mariandre. I hope everybody can see now how easy it is to actually do an opening balance test. All right, thank you so much. Okay, everybody can still see my screen hopefully, and then I can move over to 1210, which is the next document, right? Okay, 1210, right? Understanding the nature of the entity. Okay, now for those of you who are aware, this is quite the long document. So you will see we have the first sheet and then there's also the second sheet. Now on the second sheet, you will see a lot of documentation for you to go and do, right? It's never ending. Okay. So what we have done on the first sheet, right? We went and we listed all of the sections, right, that we have on our on that specific working paper, right? This is especially if you have a smaller client, right? We went and we listed all of the sections, so you can see here, and then we allow you to go and scope out certain sections, right? I'm going to show you an example. Let's say, for instance, service organizations, right? You spoke to your client and they are saying, you know what, I'm not using any service organization, so probably there's not really need for you to go and complete it. So I just want to show you, if you follow the link, it will take you to the exact same place in the working paper. So this is now on 1210, where we have listed the use of service organizations. So at the top, you will see here, there's information technology, number 15. And then you will see it's number 16, that is the use of service organizations, right? And then you will see business relationships is number 17. So if I now go back to the working paper and I say, you know what? No, I'm not going to do it. There you go. If you now follow the link again, you'll see now it's hidden. Information technology, and then we follow with business relationships. So you see it's now hidden. It's no longer there, right? So we do give you the opportunity to go through all of it and see what you need to scope in and out, right? But very, very important, you need to, at minimum, so you'll see all of these 10 colors. That's because we just raise all the cautions. Caution, 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 right? Because based on ISA 315, we no longer saw how we can go and reduce the work for you, right? So you can do and make the decision right over here where you can go and reduce the work you can do, all right? But we do ask the partner or the manager to at least come over here and declare that what has been scoped out is actually correct, all right? So it's fine, you can go scope out things, right? So it's just in case there's maybe someone that, you know what, they saw the working paper, it intimidated them, and they decided, you know what, I'm not doing this. And then they just say, no, 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 right? It's just to prevent also something like that. Because remember, Section 11 and 12 is there for you to go and gather information about the client. So you need to go and gather the information so that you can go and raise risks regarding what you found and what you identified. All right, so please go and document and confirm. Then on the actual working paper, right, you will see, just going to go to the top, all of these blue cells, right? So this is the good news. We have all of these blue cells. So over here now, you will see, so this is now where these blue cells come into play. It is perfect situation. So if I click on this cell, you will now see that there's a very, very intimidating formula. Don't worry about the formula, right? The formula is just the database and that pulls through from the prior year. And in the database and in this formula lies all our information, right? So we just said, you know what, please bring this specific cell forward. It is a blue cell. Please bring this forward for us so that we don't have to go and retype everything, all right? Very, very important. Please, please go and read through everything that it has a blue cell where you have documented something in the prior year, all right? Don't leave it, right? Don't just take it as this is now the truth. All right. You may end up being accused of something like phantom ticking or something like that because you didn't go and read through it, right? You need to go and make sure that these blue cells are actually valid. Are they still applicable? If you documented the financial manager in the prior year, it may be that the financial manager resigned and their name is now different, all right? So please don't get caught in this trap, all right? Please make sure that you go and read through it and update where it needs updating, okay? To update it, yes, there's a formula, but you can type over it. We are just going to create a new database when we roll forward again. So we are not intimidated by formulas, as you know here at Draftworx. We will just add the formula back. All right. So either you just go and type over it. Okay, so you can type over it. All right. Or what you can do is, let's say, you know, there's a lot of documentation in one cell. You want to maybe use some of it, but not all of it. You can go and right click. So Mariandra just showed you, like, I think you guys will know how to copy and paste value by the end of this webinar. You can go and right click, copy, paste special. Copy, yeah, paste special values and then paste again, right? So now you will see the formula has been removed and you can now go and add documentation and then also remove if anything is not necessary, right? So please make use of the roll forward cell. They're very, very cool cells, okay? Then going a bit down on each and every section, right? What you're going to see is we listed potential risk factors for you. So since this document is so long and exhausting, we do try to help you and we list a lot of the potential risk factors that you may encounter for this specific section. All right. We also add 3 rows for you as well, where you can go and add risks. If you do add a risk, you just simply click yes, and then you need to go and say whether it's a business or a fraud risk. All right. Raising risks. Right. So it is not a goal for you to go and have a competition with the rest of the engagement team to go and raise as many risks as possible. Right. The question's asking you, is this a risk of material misstatement? Will the risk cause for the financial statements to be materially misstated, right? So in a perfect world, right, you won't have, let's say, more than 5-ish, right? But again, it's up to your professional judgment. You need to go and gather information and identify the risks, right? So actual risks of material misstatements. Okay. Then on the naming convention. Now, we do say it's a business risk and we do say it's a fraud risk. So we just ask you, fraud or business? But when we talk about business risk, we are actually meaning, you know what, this is an inherent risk, all right? We are saying that any other risk that is not a fraud risk is a business risk, okay? So we actually do mean really it's an inherent risk. We do understand that we need to maybe change the wording over here just to bring it a bit more in line with what the ISAs, the naming on the ISAs are. But we did keep it like that because like from the past and all of the in the previous RAC documents and so on, we did make use of the B for the business risk. So we did decide, you know what, we're going to keep it like that just so that we don't confuse you guys. All right. But please see that business risk and inherent risk as interchangeably. It's the same thing. All right. So I've raised 2 risks over here. I just want to maybe change the description. All right. Just going to delete that one. All right. When you raise risks, right, sometimes what I do see is you raise the risks in a certain section. Let's say now group structure, you raise the risks, right? There's the risks. And then when you raise risks, it does pull through to the risk register, right? So you go raise your risks, this now pulled through to the risk register. But now, in the meantime, you go and you say, you know what, this is not applicable to my client, or even you got like 1,000 review notes from your manager and they're like, well, why are you documenting on a group if it's not even part of our entity? And you now go and say, you know what, please hide that section for me. But those risks are still here, all right? It does pull through the risk register. And then eventually when you do get to 1505, which is our risk register, everybody's like, where does this pull from? And you come to this document, then you see you cannot find your risks. Yeah? You have looked through this, you've spent 2 days on it, and your brain is now tired from all the reading. You cannot find these risks. That is because you've hidden it. All right. So please make sure when you do raise risk over here and you did make a mistake, come over here and just remove it, unhide it, right? And then just remove it, right? So just be cautious of what you're doing, okay? Lastly, you will see, so the document works the same all over in all of the sections. Again, here's some potential risks that we list for you, can go and conclude on them. If there's no risk, don't complete anything, all right? Because remember, this is going to go to the risk register. Because remember, the goal is not to raise as many risks as possible. Now, where you have where you want to document something, because I know all of you know this type of person, they document all these long stories, and then eventually they run out of space. All right, we work with everybody that's like that. All right, so it may be that you run out of space, right, and you may want more, or you run out of the rows over here. Okay. In that case, we do recommend for you to go and create your own working paper, okay? So what we do is from Draftworx, you can create your own working paper in Draftworx, or you can go and do it externally and then just import your document, okay? So if you want to do that in Draftworx, you see on the far right-hand side, you'll see there's Create Working Paper. So if you click on Create Working Paper, you can go and create your working paper. So let's now say this is, I'm going to put it still under 1210. Oops, 12, 10. Just going to make it 0, 1. And let's say this is now our locations. Okay. Then you have the ability to choose where you want to put this working paper. I still want it under section 12. So the menu over here, it's the same menu that's here at the top, right? So you can decide where you want it. So I want it under working papers. So I'm going to then say create my working paper. Okay. Now it's creating your working paper for you. So it's a nice little look and feel. So you can go and add your information over here, right? This is now an external document. I'm just going to close it so it will save. Okay. And then all you need to do is then hyperlink to that working paper. Okay. So how do you hyperlink? On the right-hand side again, you will see there's a shortcut. You'll click on hyperlinks. And then what you will see is under section 12, you'll see, hopefully I'm seeing it. There you go. There's my working paper. Double click on it. And then there you go. You have now linked to it. Okay. If you want to add in your own working paper, all right, I'm going to hand over to Tina. So she's going to now show you how you can add in your own working paper and how you can go through some of the things on the electronic review. All right. So Tina, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Joni. Hi, everyone. My name is Tina, and I will just be taking you guys through the electronic review and some cool features that it has. So first, I want to touch on the client summary. The client summary screen is the first screen that pops up when you open Draftworx. And if it's a RAC file, it will look like this. So it has some electronic review related information. And it just shows a nice overview of what's happening on your RAC file. It shows the status of your working papers and some nice statistics. So if you want to see which working papers have been signed off as prepared, you will see them there. It will tell you the number of working papers that have been prepared by the clerk. So those are the ones in yellow. Which working papers have been reviewed by the manager? Those are the ones in green. And which working papers have been partner reviewed? So you can also sort through that per section if you want to see working papers that have been completed and signed off in the planning section, the execution section, the finalization, and so forth. You can also go at the bottom of the screen. It will show you which working papers have been assigned, which ones have not been assigned, and how many notes have been raised in this file, which ones have been completed, which ones have not been completed, which ones have been assigned to team members, and which ones have not been. So this just shows you a nice skeletal summary of what's going on in your file and your electronic review. If you want to see more information of what's going on in your file, for instance, let's say those partner reviewed working papers, what you do is you go to client setup and you open the electronic review. So the electronic review, you'll see the screen which lists all the working papers, documents, leads that are on your file. And then it has all of these nice features and methods of filtering which help you extract information that is useful to you. So it's a very nice way of extracting information that you will find useful and will help you navigate the audit much better. So for instance, we have all of these filtering methods here where you can filter by assignment. If you want to see working papers that have been assigned to users, if you want to see working papers that have been prepared, signed off as prepared by the clerk, you can just filter using that column. If you want to see manager reviewed working papers, you can use that column. And then if you want to see the partner reviewed working papers, you can use that column. So I want to see all the working papers that the partner has reviewed. So under partner reviewed, I will just use the drop down there and click true, and then only working papers that have been signed off by the partner are going to show. So these ones in the purple. Further, if I want to see working papers that the partner reviewed on a particular date, under the sub column date there, I just click the date I want, and then only working papers the partner signed off on the 1st of March are going to show. So it's a very nice way of filtering your working papers. And we also have this other filtering methods here. The X just stands for exception. If you want to see working papers that have exceptions raised, you can just filter true. If you don't want to see working papers that have exceptions, you'll just put false. If you want to see working papers that are not applicable, you'll put true here. If you want to see working papers that are not applicable, you will just put false. And then here the L just stands for logged, and you can filter for those as well. So it's a very nice a way to filter and sort through your working papers. And you can also filter with notes. So say I want to see the working papers that have review notes raised on them. I can just click there with notes, and then only working papers for which review notes were raised are going to show. And then on that, I just want to show you guys a very nice way of raising a note on a particular working paper. Say you are on a working paper and you are reviewing the working paper and you just want to raise a note quickly for a team member. You can just go on the settings menu there on the working paper and add note. Then you can just type in the note name, say raise note, and then on this drop down that says note 2, you can just select the team member that you want to assign it to. I'll assign this one to Superman and say okay. Then if I go back to the electronic review and filter with notes, that note that I just raised on 13.23 will show. Another way, if I want to see notes that have been only raised to a particular user, I can use the notes by or to function. I only want to see Superman's notes, so I'll just click Superman there, and then I'll only see his notes. And then if I want to see all the notes that have not been completed, so they've not been actioned or closed by the user, I'll just go to incomplete notes, and then it's going to give me those. I can also filter for working papers that have been assigned to users. So working papers with assignments. So I'll just click with assignments. Only those working papers that were assigned to a user will show. How do I assign a working paper? Simply on the electronic review, you go to the working paper that you want to assign, and then under the assigned to column on the first drop down there, you just select a team member. So these team members, they pull from your team setup. And then let's just select Thor. Let's just say Thor, and then filter with assignments. Then only assigned working papers are going to show. If I want to see only working papers that have been assigned to a particular team member, I can go to assigned to, and then let me select Thor again, and then only Thor's working papers are going to show. Another cool thing, which is what Joni was touching on, is how to import external files onto Draftworx using the drag and drop function. So you can easily and quickly import external files onto your Draftworx file using drag and drop. All you have to do is just go to your file where it is saved. So say I am auditing my fixed assets and I want to import my fixed asset register. All I do is I go to where it is saved in my PC, right click, copy the file, and then I just go to my fixed assets section. So it's section 30. The nice thing about this feature is that it will automatically number the working paper that you're importing. So you don't have to rename it yourself. Draftworx will rename it. And if I want it under my fixed asset and investments lead 30.0, I can just right click on there and then paste the file. If I go up, you'll see it is now there and it has been automatically numbered, which is much nicer than having to go to the office tools and importing the file and renaming it yourself to add that number. So yeah, and that's it from me. Thank you.
Okay, so we are done with 12.10. Just going to close it down. All right. So everybody should know how to go and import. Right. Next is 12.40. So this is also a very, very important document because this relates to the entity level controls. Right. Very important for you to understand what you need to do on this working paper. Right. Now, on this working paper, you will see that we have a lot of space for you to go and document on, right? Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go and complete everything over here. So I just want to point out that when you deal with entity level controls, right, we do deal with it when you deal with entity level controls, you go and have a look, what is the environment like? So it's not relating to a balance or anything like that. So we look at how is the environment at the client. Is it poor? Is it good? So we go and have a look at that, right? So because most likely when you do have a client with very poor controls, you may want to worry a bit, and maybe you want to see them as a higher risk client, right? So we deal more on entity level controls. We deal more on like a higher level, on more of the internal policies and so on of the client, right? So even if you look here on the first question, it's asking to please describe how management communicates the need of the integrity and the values, right? So how do they do that? Do they have pizza parties every Friday and then they send out all these flyers? What do they do to actually communicate it? All right. So you need to go through it and see if this is applicable to your client, right? But a very, very important thing on this working paper that I need to point out, right? You need to get to know your client in order to go and complete it, all right? I'm going to scroll down a bit to the end, just so that you can see what is the end goal of this working paper, right? So we're going to go to the conclusion. So at the end, you need to conclude over here whether you feel that the controls for this client is effective, all right? So when you're dealing with entity level controls, so it doesn't mean you're now going to go wild and test a lot of controls. It simply means that you are having a look at what the environment is like. So it may be that you may have a bit of a concern if it's very, very poor, right? But the questions over here, it's going to lead you, and you need to go and consider what you know about your client, right? So the questions over here, if you look, for instance, at number 4, it's asking you, is the entity's risk assessment process appropriate to the entity's circumstance, considering the nature and complexity of the entity? These words are super important. You need to go and have a look based on what you know about the client, right? Is it appropriate for that specific client, right? So if you're dealing with a small little one-man owner-managed client, right? So the fact that there's not hundreds and hundreds well documented of controls doesn't necessarily mean that the environment is poor. It may just mean that for the nature and the complexity of the client, it may just be adequate to only have a few documented controls. So you need to always consider what is the nature of your client and how complex they are. Always, right? So it's very, very important for you to note in these questions, they refer a lot to what is the nature and the complexity of your client, right? So, for instance, in the example of an owner-managed client, they may be very involved with the day-to-day running of the business. The owner oversees all the bank payments. He does the actual purchases. So it may be that he's so involved with the client, there is controls, right? But you are maybe not able to go and document it clearly like you would, for instance, a multinational client, right? So always consider the nature of the entity, right? So please don't think that now you're dealing with a small client that there's no controls. Every client has controls, right? Just need to go find them, all right? But ultimately, you will go through the questions over here, and the end goal over here is to go and say whether it's effective or not, all right? So you see, again, there's a yellow cell. You need to go and say, you know what, this is effective, not effective, based on what you know about the client, right? Because I know this working paper, it intimidates a lot of people, right? It doesn't mean you're going to now go through each and every one and document something, okay? So very importantly, to complete this document, first question is, does the entity level control exist? Yes or no, right? If it does not exist at your client, why would you complete it, all right? Then you'll document the control. Remember, entity level controls, it's not based on any assertion. It does not relate to, for example, given revenue. Okay. Is a walkthrough test required in terms of ISO 315? Again, awesome guidance sheets. We guide you on that. We tell you exactly what the ISAs is telling us when you need to perform a walkthrough. All right. But we only have one, for instance, for our only managed clients. So probably you would want to say yes. Okay. Then we will go and document. All right. So we are going to say, you know what the client is telling us, right, actually is happening. Right. So they said that they are having a pizza party every Friday, and this is what is happening, right? So you'll rock up there at Friday, and you'll see if you grab yourself a nice little slice of pizza, and hopefully they do this, right? This is what you'll do when you go and document your walkthrough, right? Then you need to go and say, you know what, is this adequate, right? And has it been implemented? So if you say no, okay, it's not been adequate, it's not implemented, we will say, you know what, we don't even recommend that you go do controls. It's a waste of time, right? But we do ask you, you know what, you found this weakness perhaps, and then go and communicate that to management. Remember, ISAS is telling us, please communicate that to management, right? Then we do ask you to document the control risk identified. It's not an inherent risk. So we do tell you here, if you did find any inherent risks, please go to action 5. Right, I'll show you now where's action 5. So ultimately, you need to come and conclude over here. I'm just going to say yes over here. And then you will see now it's telling us, you know what, we see the control is in place. And based on this, you can go and perhaps consider testing controls, right? Also, further for this document, let's take, for instance, management attitude towards control. You can go and say, you know what, I'm going to rather just use this road for my documentation and say yes. Okay. You can then also say, you know what, the rest I'm not going to do. And then you see it actually grays it out for you. So you can go and document only on that one cell, right? So you can choose what you want to do. You can even mark it as not applicable, right? But I think not applicable is actually going to take a lot of time, all right? So you need to go through the list that we have over here, right? And based on your client, what you know about the client, you need to come and complete it over here. Like human resources. Are they clearly defined lines of responsibility? Do you expect that to see that from your client? Is it a problem if it doesn't happen? So you need to tell us, Draftworx, you need to tell your working paper what is happening, what do you expect, all right? You may even want to say, you know what, I'm not seeing this. It may be a good idea if you want to do it. And then you can say, you know what, I'm going to recommend that to my client, right? So again, when you want to raise MLPs, you'll go and do the add note. If you raise MLPs, it will go directly to the report on the finalization. Okay. But ultimately, you need to make sure that you consider the client, consider what is happening with the client so that you can go and conclude whether it's effective or not. Right. So don't just go and say, you know what, there's no controls. Just go and consider a few things at least. Right. So I'm just going to answer these quickly. All right. I'm going to say it's effective. And then it's asking, why do you say it's effective? All right. So you can give a nice little summary. You can say something like, you know what, this is owner managed company. There's a lot of involvement from the owner. And this is why, ... All right. Action 5, like I said before, we do also have space for you in case you did want to raise an inherent risk. So will this be a risk of material misstatement, business or fraud risk? All right. Very important document for you to complete. Okay, then let's move over to 1245. So 1245 has a lot to do with your IT controls. Right. Now, it works a lot like 1240. Right. So you're going to even now see it looks the same. It has the same type of headers and it works on the same type of principle. All right. Again, your goal is to reach action 5. Okay. Oh, sorry, action 4. Previously, we did have it at action 5, but now it's action 4. All right. So again, you need to come and indicate over here whether, based on your entity, whether you see the controls as effective. So if you have a multinational company, probably I would be a bit worried if they are using Excel. All right. So in such a case, I would maybe try and do a lot of work and to see whether the IT controls are effective or not. Okay. Then again, we also do have the inherent risk here as well. So if you do find any inherent risks, you can also document. But the rest of the working paper works the same. Again, headers are the same. You will complete it the exact same way than what you are doing for 1240. Right, same principle. We do have a second sheet, 1245, which deals a lot with the applications, right? So the applications that your client is using. Now, we do have pastel over here, and we do have some answers over here on what we consider would be an appropriate answer, right? So we don't have time to go through all of the questions, but this is basically an evaluation of the system, right? So what we do is we go and we basically calculate, right, based on what the ISAS is guiding us on when when the application is complex or not, right? Probably pastel, not that complex. So what you can do is you can either decide, you know what, I don't have pastel, and I'm just going to say, no, I'm not going to use it, right? Again, all of these red cells. But let's just, for today, say, yes, I'm going to do pastel. And then at the bottom, what you will see is now we open up the components for you. So we list all of the components, right? So if your client, right, probably if they are using pastel, probably it's going to be all of the components. So you come and indicate over here what component you are using for that specific application, right? And then a very important question, it's asking you, do you intend to test controls, right? Do you intend to test controls on pastel? So that is what it's asking. So if you don't intend to, it's fine. Then you just say no, right? Then you can select another one. So you can either type over the pastel one, right? You can say, you know what, I don't want to use pastel. So again, that's a blue cell. Or you can just go to the next one and say, I'm going to use Excel, right? I am creating my fixed asset register on Excel. So I'm going to say, okay, does the entity use the application? Yes, I'm using Excel. And then you can go and say, you know what, for PPE, I am using Excel. I'm going to say yes. Do I intend to test controls? No, I'm not going to test controls. Right. But now what we do over here in the middle of the working paper, we list your applications for you. And then you will see, again, based on what the ISAS is telling us, whether it's complex or not. So you need to go through the evaluation that we have over here, all of the questions. So unfortunately, you will need to complete every single question. You cannot jippo it so that you can get to an appropriate conclusion. I'm just going to say no. So you see now this may take a while. Unfortunately, cannot jippo it. We do it because I just want to show you now. See, the moment I completed the last question, it's now, okay, it's Excel. It's telling us, okay, it's a complex system, right? So please, this is just an example. Probably Excel is not that complex, but it's complex, right? And there may be a risk arising from using IT. Okay. Then what we further do is we tell you whether you may need an IT expert. Okay. So we tell you that. We are saying, yes, this is a very complex working paper. Please get an IT specialist involved as well, right? So then you need to make sure as well, just going back to the first sheet, make sure that you do conclude on it, whether it's effective or not, all right? Since we are dealing with a complex situation where we may need an IT specialist or some kind of expert, I'm going to also now hand over quickly to Tina, who's going to show you that we do have additional working papers other than the ones that we've listed over here. Because we do find there's a lot of inquiry about them, and a lot of times you don't really know where you can find them. So I'm going to hand over to Tina, and then she will quickly show you where you can find them.
As Joni mentioned, sometimes we don't have all the working papers that we do offer on the drop down. So let's say you're looking for a particular working paper and then you open the working paper drop down and it's not there. Don't panic, just go to our additional templates. So we have those under client setup again. If you go to the working papers tab, you will see we have this option here for additional templates. Just click on that option and then you'll see here a long list of all the additional working papers that we do offer. So we have the reliance on an expert, service organizations, and a whole lot more. And then if you just want to import, for instance, you're busy on that working paper with the IT and you want to select the reliance on expert working paper, you just click on that working paper and then here you just name the working paper to whatever you want, or you can just use the template name for that working paper. So I'm just going to use that 19.05 reliance on expert. And then you can choose the folder that you want to import it under. I'll just use the working papers folder, input file. So if I just go to working papers under the 19 section, there it is, reliance on expert. Open the working paper, and then you can just go through the working paper and complete it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. I hope everybody now knows where to find these working papers. Please make use of them. Some of them you can actually go and alter. You are welcome to do that as well. It will not break anything because they are not integrated. Okay. Then we are done with 1245. I'm going to just skip over 1270. So it's very important working paper as well. We did change 1270 over the last year. So I need to go through that as well. But I want to also put that together with the risk register so that you can just see how it fits in and so on. So I want to discuss that one a bit later. On 1280, it's also very critical. But what it basically is you evaluate or choosing your estimates, and then later on you can go and populate your own estimate working papers, and then you can evaluate those estimates, right? We do have an extremely detailed video on that, right? So it's not going to do it justice if I discuss it today. So please open the working paper, go to the guidance sheet, and then go and have a look at the video. All right. So we're just going to skip over that one, right? Then system notes, right? The one that everybody is dreading, right? But super important because like I've shown you before on our RAC workflow, it does also flow from other working papers. So you will have to come and at least go and just have a look at it. Okay. We do have all of the components listed here at the moment. We are looking to improve that. For now, please just mark it as not applicable if it's not applicable to your client. Right, later on, I will show you on 17.95, you will be able to see the entire list of all of the audit sections that's applicable to your audit. You can also go to 1020 if you want to, but there is a nice little summary on 17.95 where you can see what is applicable and what you need to complete. Right, but like I said, hide it. I did show you how you can go and hide them as well. Right. 1313 fixed asset register. Okay. So again, I just want to emphasize. Right. So again, I just want to emphasize that it's very important for you to go and have a look at what your entity does and what you need to do to go and reach the inclusion. So you need to look at the complexity and the nature of your entity, right? Same principle applies to this working paper. You need to go and have a look. So I want to sort of just start at the bottom where you will see we list the components applicable in your audit. If you open it up, you will see we list the components, we list the summary from 1240 and 1245. So we just went through 1240 and 1245. So it's now pulling through. We assess this as effective. We assess this as effective. and this is complex and Excel is not complex, right? So it doesn't matter, right, whether you are going to test controls or not. You just need to come and conclude and say whether it's effective or not. So we're not there yet at control testing, right? So this is a very nice summary. So whatever you conclude over here, so the decision that you make over here needs to relate to what's happening over here. All right. So this is what this yellow cell is for. Okay. Let me just say it's going to be effective based on what I've done in the rest of the working paper. Right. So here, I'm just going to take this off quickly just to show you. It shows you, please complete the question above. All right. So it does show you, it does prompt you. Remember, if you can read, you can audit. All right. But the section over here is the outcome of your control evaluation in the rest of the working paper. Okay, so if I go and say, you know what, it is effective, it's immediately telling no controls identified. Right, so why does it say no controls identified? Well, I didn't go and identify any controls. So if you look at the rest of the working paper, there's nothing. Okay. So just scrolling to the top, you will see there's some general information that you can go and complete. Remember, these are raw forward cells, right? So you can complete them. So based on what you know about this specific component, you can come and complete. Okay. Very nice. Remember, read through it in the next year. Then we just list the applications for you, just so that you know. If it's empty over here, guys, then you didn't complete 1245. All right. So if there's nothing, you didn't complete 1245. So please just be aware of that. Very important question. Existing notes. All right. So it's asking you whether you want to document your existing, document the system descriptions on the working paper in Action 4 that we provide, or do you want to add in your own system descriptions? So it may be that you have documented system descriptions, right? I know I was treated very well at one of my clients, and they used to do it for me. So I just read through it and just made sure, and I did the walkthroughs to make sure that it's actually valid, right? So you may have something like that. So this is now where we say, okay, you are saying, yes, you want to use your own. You can then go and import it, right, like Tina's shown you, and then again hyperlink it to the specific component, right? Again, here's a nice little dance cell for you, all right? Because what we actually want you to do, right, is we want to, in the long run, in the future, want you to spend a bit more time on documenting your system descriptions over here, because it's raw for itself. I mean, what do you have to lose? But I know it does take time, and you don't perhaps have the time and the budget to do it, right? So we all know what an audit budget looks like. Okay. But then now ultimately you can go and document your control, right? So here you can simply go and say, this is my control. Then you will see there's a drop down. You can go and select your component. Then you need to select whatever activity. So I'm just going to say safeguarding. Then you can say, what is the assertion that's addressed by this control? Completeness. Okay. Then here you can say whether that's a manual IT control. Guys, if you say IT control, you will see next to that, it's asking you which application is relating to this IT control. Again, if this is blank, you did not complete 1245. So please make sure that you go back to 1245 if this is blank. Okay. Please don't skip the second sheet. I know, for me personally, I only look at the first sheet normally. So please go and have a look at the second sheet. But if I say manual, right, it's going to gray it out for me. If I do select something, again, there you go. Nice little red cell for you. Then you can document the frequency, of course. Let's just say, you know what, they log every day. You can document whether it's direct or indirect, name of the person, and then you can go and complete your walkthrough. All right. It's not yet testing controls. It is doing the walkthrough. All right. You are checking whatever they are saying that actually happened. So there you go and document. Right. If it's not documented, it's not done. Is the control adequate? Let's just say yes. If we say no, it's not been implemented, we can say no. Right. If we do say no, again, we need to communicate with management. And then we do give you the opportunity to raise a risk. So if you want to raise a risk, you can go and document. Okay. And then, is this a risk of material misstatement? Again, is this an actual risk of material misstatement? Yes or no? If you do say yes again, then we'll ask you, is it a business risk? Is it a fraud risk? Okay, same thing, same thing. So you'll see these documents, they work quite the same, right? I'm just going to say yes over here. There you go. And now we have documented our walkthrough. All right. Not going to go through Action 8 now. I'll go through it when we go to our risk assessment. But ultimately, you need to get to a conclusion. Because over here, you now see that for completeness, it says we have 1 effective control and 0 effective controls. So based on what we did over here, is it now pulling over here? Right. So you can now say, you know what, if I were to decide, right, whether I'm going to do a test of controls, that it is effective. Okay. So the importance for you, right, to understand why you need to document your walkthrough is very important for you to understand, especially when we get to 1505. Because based on the ISAs, you know, when we are dealing with a significant risks, it's saying that we have to. We don't have a choice. When we're dealing with significant risks, we have to perform a walkthrough. So you need to identify the control. You need to follow the walkthrough. All right. So we do not necessarily have to perform the test of controls, but the ISAs is telling us that we have to, at minimum, for a significant risk, go and document the walkthrough, identify the controls. All right. If you do not do that, you need to document and provide evidence on where you communicated with the client. Okay. Oh, yeah, with the client. Right. But if you're absolutely sure, right, you do not have a significant risk, you may even stop here at system descriptions. So you may even say, you know what, I'm definitely sure this is not going to be a significant risk, and then stop here. Obviously, you will need to come over here and conclude, because you will see that there is a component, all right, another component, and you still need to come and say whether it's effective or not. Okay. So please make sure that when there's a significant risk, you try as much as possible to go and document the walkthroughs. Okay. Okay, enough of my preaching, all right? Then we can move over to 1505. Okay. 1505. This is our risk register. Now, the very first sheet, what you will see, it's just a list of all our risks, right? So it's giving us a list of all our risks. It's indicating to us where we can find this risk. Where did we go and raise this risk? Then at the bottom, you'll see in part C, if you deleted the risks, you see now I deleted that risk earlier. It's now listing here for me under the deleted risks. It will also roll forward your prior year risks. So it will also here. So you can go and delete these risks, right? You need to log in as a manager or a partner to delete it by just changing the N to a Y. Okay. If you delete them, they are gone forever, all right? So please don't make the mistake and delete them by accident. Make double sure you want to delete them. But if you do keep it here, all right, they need to go through the risk assessment process. They need to go through the evaluation that I will show you guys now. Okay. But like I said, we are listing the working paper reference. This is your initial assessment of these risks, right? It's asking you, is this a duplicate of a risk or not, right? So if it's a duplicate, you can just say, yes, you know what, this is a duplicate. It happens quite a lot on 1270, because previously we did have 1270 raised over here, right? But now we do address that within 1270 on its own, okay? So if there's 2 or 3 people busy doing the planning, you can also then go through it and see where there's no duplicates. Okay. Then we ask you again, is this a compulsory significant risk in terms of ISA 240? Okay. So if you perhaps made the mistake and you're like, you know what, I did say it's a business risk / inherent risk, you can say, you know what, I did make a mistake. I'd rather want that to be a fraud risk. Then you'll see it changes now to F for fraud. Okay. If you're still happy, all happiness over there, then you can just say, no, you know what, just keep it as an inherent risk. Okay. You will do the same over here, right? If I delete it, it's going to be gone forever, right? But it does also take you, it does also list to the, it does also go and lie to 150503, where all the prior risks and deleted risks are, right? So you can see now, there is that other risk that I deleted earlier. So if I go and I remove it, just going to log in quickly with the manager password. Okay. Change that to a Y. If I go there, you will see it's still here. You need to just tab away from the document and then open it again. And now you're going to see, oh, voila, it's gone forever. All right. Please don't make this mistake. All right. Okay. Then now we need to go through our evaluation of the risk. Okay. So I'm not going to go through management override of controls. All you'll see over here is we do list a nice procedures for you. We help you a bit here. So there are some procedures that you can use. Okay. But I'm not going to go through that one because I just want to show you a nice example of when you have a significant risk and when you just have a normal risk. Okay. So the first one. So it's indicating for me, okay, well, there is the risk number 2. So hopefully you gave better explanations than what I do. This is just risk 2. Please, that's not how you describe a risk. Okay. I'm going to open the grouping on the left. So firstly, it does say, is this a fraud risk, yes or no? Based on what I selected on my list, is this a yes or a no? I'm going to then just open. And now you will see it's asking me, is this a financial statement level risk? So if you do say yes, you're going to see now the screen will look a bit different. So you're going to say yes, and then you will see there's something else that you can go and complete. Right. If it's a response to the risk at overall financial statement level, the ISAs do dictate to us what needs to be in as the answers. So we list them already here for you. So there's no other choice than choosing one of these. All right. So please don't think that we took your professional skepticism or your answers from you. This is dictated to us by the ISAs. Okay. But if you now say, yes, this can relate to a financial statement level risk, and it is a fraud risk, we can now choose our component. So if I go and choose a component, let me just scroll up. Let's say PPE, okay? So we went and said, you know what, PPE, that's a problem. If you then look at the drop down, there's only a level 4, right? I want to show you just quickly on the guidance. We do have different risk levels available, okay? Just want to scroll in a bit so you can see 1, low risk, 2, medium, 3, high, 4, significant. That's what we have. Okay, it's not something specifically that the ISAs tells us. That's just how Draftworx is doing it. Okay. So now it doesn't even give you the option to select anything other than a 4. If you have a significant risk, which is the fraud risk, so here we have a fraud risk, you are going to get 4. You don't have a choice in selecting on anything else. Okay. So now let's say that risk now relates to completeness. We can say, you know what, this is a yes for completeness. And then we list all of the other assertions here for you. Okay. We only provide limited space over here. Okay. Because you need to remember, if you start adding too many components and you attach too many components to one specific risk, you may want to ask yourself, you know, maybe this is not a risk at overall financial statement level. Right. So just be careful of how many you select over here and consider the risk at overall financial statement level. So I'm just, for argument's sake, going to say, you know what, trade payables, that's the other risk. Again, I only have level 4 available for me. I'm going to say, let's just say existence. Yeah, that's the only assertions that I'm going to use. So now you will see options opens up for us. Okay, so you need to document management's response. You need to go and have a little chat with management and ask them, you know what, why, all right? And ask them what is happening. Then what we do is, remember what I said before, when you have a significant risks, you need to, have to go and document your walkthroughs and identify the controls. Okay. So yeah, we are asking you, you know what, go back to section 13 or any of the other working papers, but it will be ideal for you to go and say, you know what, on section 13, I did proper work and I can now actually go and copy and paste in the controls that are identified for completeness. Okay, so this is what you'll need to do. Because you have to do it for a significant risk, you have to come and add it in here, right? So the completeness one is for PPE, so you can come and copy and paste it over here. Then you can reference, so you can just go and reference to section 13. And then you can go and say whether it's effective or not. So remember, you already concluded on that on section 13. So just as basically, just a little summary of your where you're addressing the walkthrough on your specific risk. Okay. Occurrence and existence, we attach that now to trade payables. But now you're like opening trade and other payables. Let me just go, which is section 30.51. And you're like, oh, I didn't go and document anything, right? This is now where action 8 comes in, right? So you can either go and say, you know what, I realize now that there's a significant risk, and you can go do the work, do the walkthrough, or you can come over here and say, you know what, there are significant risks for which there are no controls. And then you need to come and document the risk over here and reference to where you communicated that. The lack of controls with management, right? So you need to come and document. So this is what section 8 is for. Okay, don't leave it. Don't not communicate with the client, right? You don't want about to ask you, you know what? Why didn't you run a walkthrough for this significant risk? Okay. Again, management's response. Okay, now you'll see those yellow cells are actually blue, but you need to copy and paste here. So the next important question is, does the auditor intend to test the operating effectiveness or not? So here you can go and say, oh, yes, I want to, because you know what, I want to reduce my risk. Or I want to reduce some of the testing. So if you say yes, right, what we do now is we go and say, you know what, this is the substantive procedure. On this document, you need to go and say, you know what, this is procedure 1 for my substantive. Okay. Then for the control testing, you need to say what control testing you are going to do. So here you list your procedure, your actual procedure that you're going to perform for this significant risk. Okay. So you can now go. So remember, the overall level of assurance is 4, right? But we do give you now the opportunity to say, you know what, I feel this control is excellent. It's going to cover and mitigate a lot of risk. And we can say, you know what, I'm going to do that at a level 3. So on the levels, okay, you will see that we do provide you with some guidance on the magnitude and also on the likelihood to where it is. So we do provide you some guidance on it, right? It's not set in stone. The ISAs didn't set this in stone. We just provide you with some guidance of how we derive at it. Okay. Going back, now you'll see there's a level 3. Okay, so ultimately, overall, it will be 4, but my control testing will be a level 3. And let me just change it to 2. And then it will also be a 2 for any substantive type of testing. Okay, you can do the second procedure. So you see now it tells me over here that there's an issue of red, right? This is because I did not select my assertion. So I can say, you know what, completeness for this procedure. So it's telling me now I still need occurrence and existence. So I can now go and say, all right, there's my procedure. Right. And then again, I'm not going to test controls on it because remember I said there's no controls, and this is going to cover my existence procedure. Right. So this is what you'll need to do when you do have a significant risk. All right. We are not addressing the significant risk someplace else. When you address the significant risk and you come and design the procedures over here, it will automatically go through to the audit program, right? So this is very cool. You'll see at the end of the audit program, you're going to see all of the significance risks will be there as well, right? So you deal with significant risks separately from what your remaining risks are. Okay. For the second risks, you will now see, again, asking the same question, but this time we do not deal with a significant risk. So we're going to go and say, you know what? Yes. You know what? No, we can. It's not an overall financial statement level risk. We're going to use PPE again. Okay. And now you will see it's giving us the 1 to 4. What is the likelihood? What is the magnitude? So again, it's on the guidance, but please make use of your professional judgment. It's not set in stone. Okay. So I can, for instance, say, you know what? Likelihood is a 2, magnitude, maybe it's a 3. And then what you will see is we get to our overall risk level. Okay. How we calculate this is we go and we say 2 times 3 divided by 4. That's what we do. It's very simple. Then the answer is 1.5. We round that up and then it's a level 2. Okay. That's just how we do it. We can say, okay, let's do completeness again. And there you go. That is what you need to do if it's not a significant risk. This risk will now pull through to 1605, which is ultimately your remaining risks. Okay, so it's not going to deal with your significant risks. You see, we didn't even ask you to go and complete any procedures over here because we will go through that and transfer that to the audit plan as well. Okay. Right, so this is basically this for 1505. You will see we do have the deleted risks and the prior risks. I have to go through the same procedures, same evaluation. You need to do the exact same work, no difference. We do have a nice little summary. So again, here you can now see is there's no level 4s over here because we transfer those level 4s directly to the audit program, right? We only transfer the non-significant risks below level 3 or 3 and below, and we transfer this to 1605. Okay. Then we can quickly move over to 1605. Okay. Now, this is just the remaining risk, a summary of it. Okay. Very easy document to complete. Basically, we have done everything for you already. On the side over here. Before I move on, I quickly just want to show you on 1270, right? So we've dealt now with how the significant risk has been done, right? If you look now at 1270, you're going to see the exact same type of layout, okay? The only difference is you need to come over here, right, and list your streams, your revenue streams. You need to tell it whether you're going to rebut something or not. So if you're going to rebut it, you need to say yes. If you open the grouping here on the left, you will now see you can go and rebut. Okay, so you can go and type in whatever reason you find, and is it sufficient or not? So you can say, yes, it's sufficient, and then you'll see you're going to rebut it. Okay, so I'm not going to rebut anything now, but you can do that. Let's just say it's no. So again, here we have your procedures that you, the controls that you documented and the walkthroughs that you performed, you need to document over here. And then again, you see it's the exact same layout. You come over here, you design your procedure, and we take that directly to the audit program. So whatever I showed you on 1505 for the risk assessment, for the fraud risk, you will need to come and repeat over here. Okay. The only exception is you can rebut one or the assertions and give reasons of why you are rebutting. Okay. Cool. That's the only difference. But again, on this one, you will see it will list all of the components, right? All of the components. Okay. So yeah, you need to just confirm that everything is correct. Okay. So I'm going to open PPE. Okay. So now it's telling us, or it's giving us, is this component material or not? Yes. Okay. So we, based on materiality, this is actually now material, right? Now, what you will see is we list the assertions. Then you will see here's the inherent risk at a level 2. So remember the risk that we just did on 1505. It's over here. Okay. It's saying, yes, we did say that controls are effective, and we do recommend to you, you know what, you can actually test controls. But if you don't want to, you can just say, you know what, no, I don't want to do it, and just indicate as no. For the rest of the assertions, you will see that's now a 0. Okay. Where a component is material, like this one, we say yes. Where a component is material, right, we move that over to a level 1. Okay. So there's a lot of discussion and different views on this one, but we just decided to keep it the conservative way. So we just decided to move that over to a level 1. There's different views, as I said. That's just how we do it, right? So we are looking to improve on that in the future, where you can go and maybe assign your own risk level and decide whether you want to test or not, right? But for now, unfortunately, this is how we do it. Okay. Right. Okay, so for these, if you want to test controls, you can. So you will see over here, if I go and add in a yes, what you will see now is the final level of assurance required is 2. Right. So remember, the ISO is telling us that test of controls alone is not sufficient. So we put that to a 2 for you, so that we can ensure that you need to also address the risk at the level 1 with some type of substantive testing. Okay, so that's why we put that over to a level 2 as well. Okay, that's the only reason we do it. Okay. Then when we look at, let's say, something like payroll, okay, it is still material, like I said before. There's no risk. We do attach a level 1, like I said. Okay. Hopefully, the working paper that we are working on will be released within this year still, and then you guys can go and assess your own risks, and then you don't have to take the conservative approach like we are doing, because we are also still waiting from ERA and SACA on feedback. Right, so this is what will happen right now. But when you're looking at something like other income, you will now see that the component is not material, right? There's no risks that's pulling from 1505. Total assurance is 0. All right. So you don't have to do anything over here, right? But we do give you the chance at the top to go and at the minimum, go and test completeness and presentation on an immaterial component. Okay. It's up to you whether you want to do that or not. Okay. So you ultimately just need to open all the groupings, make sure that you complete where you need to complete. If you intend to test controls, indicate that. And then you will see there is a risk assessment incomplete next to each component. Okay. I'm just going to hop over quickly to that summary. So currently you will see, right, it shows us all of the components, whether the risk assessment is complete or not, which is not. And here it's showing us everything else on level 3. But I went through everything now, and it's telling me that it's level 1 or the level 0. So why would this be a level 3? Right. Making you stress now quite a bit. Okay. First reason is at the bottom, your partner needs to log in, and he needs to come and complete it. So here we are looking for a partner sign off, right? So if anybody else other than a partner signs off, Just going to log out quickly, sign in as a partner, and then you will see now I can sign off. So to the right, I'm going to say partner reviewed. Right? You see now it says risk assessment complete. Right? So you need to sign off. The partner needs to absolutely sign off for the risk assessment to be complete. And then when you look on your summary, you will see, oh, voila, now the risks pulls through as it should be. And then where I indicated that the controls will be tested, it says also no. Right. So please, this is super important. You will not be able to populate any audit programs if you did not do this step. Okay. Then all of the risks from 1605 is going to pull through to 1705, which is ultimately our audit plan. Right. So over here, you will see now. So if you guys are familiar with or very familiar with your audit studies, this document is the nature, time, and extent of your audit. All right. So what is the nature? What procedures are you going to perform? So I'm going to scroll a bit down to property, plant, and equipment. So here you will see we have a level 2. Okay. I said, no, you know what? I'm not going to test controls. That's fine. If you look at the drop down underneath the assurance test from controls, the column, you will see you cannot choose anything else than none, right? So you did say no, so you can't choose anything anyway. If you want to choose test of controls, go back to 1605 and indicate that. Okay. Now we have a medium level currently. So this is a white cell. We have a medium level currently. And if I now say, you know what, I want to test substantive analyticals at a level 1. Now you will see, oh, this is now dropping to a level 1. Because remember, we only need a total of a level 2. We can split that up between the two types of testing. So I'll do an assurance level for substantive analytical procedures, and then assurance level for substantive and analytical procedures. If you maybe reduce this one, because you still can't reduce this one, if you maybe reduce this one to none, red, okay? Please increase the level of testing. Why? Because medium 2, we need a level 2, okay? If you go and say, I'm going to test that at a level 3, at least you're getting a tan 1 this time, but it is telling you, you know what, consider reducing your risk. You are maybe testing too much, right? So you're over testing. So always have a look at what is the number over here, and then try to go and use your professional judgment, of course, and then get to an adequate testing, right? So we don't want to over test, budgets are small. Then timing. This is the timing, right? Here you can come and indicate where you, all your engagement team members, you can allocate to them all of the sections, when they will do it, when the first review is going to be done. So it's the timing of the extent and the nature that you're going to do, right? So you don't have to complete this right away. You can complete it as you're going. This one, only the manager or the partner or the senior can log in and complete this one, right? Same with the significant risks. You will see we also list the significant risks over here very, very badly. On section 4, we did not identify any risks for revenue fraud very badly, but that's just because we didn't complete that correctly. So hopefully you can see now the importance of actually going through the documents and completing the documents and see where the red cells are. Right. When you are done with 1705, okay, you then open 17.95. Okay. Now this is a nice little summary for you, especially for the manager, where you can go and have a look. You know what, these are all the documents applicable to my audits, right? You see all the walkthroughs that you need to do, right? Or conclude on at least. Nice little list for you. And it's asking you, it's giving you the result, right? So it's telling you what happened on that working paper. Is there a conclusion? Is there a result, right? Now, a lot of you, I know you leave that to be no. But ultimately what needs to happen is you need to go and confirm, the partner or the manager need to go and confirm whether they are happy that these documents are completed correctly. So if this is still no, right, it's up to you. You can keep it no, but I would rather have that to say yes. So if it still says no, open the working papers and see what is wrong. So this is actually a very, very nice document to start reviewing. So you can start using this working paper, go to 1025 and say, you know what, this is not done. This is not done, and start raising your review notes. Okay. Want to show you just the second sheet, which is the validation sheet. So on the validation sheet, firstly, it's asking you, are all components allocated to a cycle? Yes, we did that for you, so don't stress about that one. Secondly, is 17.95 correctly confirmed? No, it's not. Why? Because there's a nice little column over here where you need to go and confirm. Right, please don't do what I do. Right, I'm just going to say yes, yes, yes for all of them. Right. And then the last question is it correctly signed off or not? Okay, so I'm going to show you a nice little cheat sheet. In the formula bar over here, you will see it's asking for either the manager sign off or the partner sign off. All right. So at the minimum, the partner or the manager can sign this off. All right. So you can go and confirm, yes, happiness all around. And you can say, well, cool, and there you go. You can then go and review it or partner review. So it doesn't matter which one you choose. So I'm going to say reviewed so that you can just see. Going back, you will see the validation now says yes. Only now can you go and populate audit programs. All right. So only now will you be able to populate audit programs. All right. So how are you going to populate audit programs, right? You're going to go to working papers, right, here at the top. And then to the far left, you will see populate audit programs, right? Under working papers, you will see, there's no sections, okay? We can say, okay, you know what? Populate the audit programs. Or if you did do estimates, but please go and watch that very cool video that I showed you. You can also populate the estimate evaluations. I'm going to say populate working paper programs. Oh, I need to just go to another sheet. Sorry. Go back and then say, go back to working papers and then populate them. Right. So always just tab to another place so that you can just update. And then working papers. Oof, all of my beautiful audit programs has been populated for me. All right. So now, planning is not yet done. You need to now go into each of those audit programs, right? Caution, right? Don't go into 18 before you have not gone into each and every audit program and designed your procedures. So you need to go through of the procedures and design all your procedures for the remaining risks. So remember, all of the significant risks is going to pull through. If I do have more time left, I will show you quickly on how the audit programs would work, and then also how it fits in with 18. But if I do now open 18, you're going to see a lot of red, right? Because it's telling you that the audit program does not comply with the audit plan. That is because you did not go and attach procedures to your audit plan, right? So everything that you selected on 1705 needs to have a procedure, okay? So please don't open even this document before you have not gone and open your audit programs to address each procedure. Okay. Now we are at 4 o'clock, so I am going to ask Mariandre, because everybody is so excited for the sampling. So I am going to ask Mariandre to show you guys how we're going to sample. So we're going to touch on the pastel one as well as the other one. So the principle for all of them, ultimately, it's going to be the same. All right. So very exciting to show you guys this. This is something that we don't usually cover in our webinars, but we, you guys asked, we listened, and here we are. We're going to do sampling. Okay. Mariandre, please take the floor.
Thank you, Janie. I really appreciate it. And I do believe that there's quite a bit of the people on here that literally stays in this webinar for these working papers. It's quite interesting. I never knew about these working papers when I was in practice. Only once I started working at Draftworx, I started knowing about them. And I wish I knew about them sooner because they make your life incredibly easier if you actually know how to use them. So that's why we thought it would be a good idea to add them. Yeah. So I first want to show you where to add or where to get the sampling working papers and then how to add or create them. So you can go into any working paper, literally anyone. We just want to get to the working paper tab at the top. If you recall, Tina also referred to the client setup option earlier when she viewed or showed you guys how to add the additional template, so you can use that option as well. Okay. But there we have our manual sampling, we have auto sampling controls, auto sampling other, and pastel. So we will be dealing with these last two today because that's the ones that pops up mostly. The rest of them you can use, obviously, always there for your for you to use, but we're gonna just look at these last two. So I'm first gonna use the pastel one. If I look on the drop down, you will see that there's population with these funny numbers at the back. So these funny numbers, just quickly want to explain what they are. So that's the size of your population. So how many transactions you have on your GL. So say for example, I have a very small GL and my GL is only 2,000 lines. I would select the 5,001 because my GL doesn't go over that. Okay. The bigger you go, the bit longer it will load because there's quite a bit of formulas in the working paper. So if you have a GL that's larger than 100 line items, 100,000 line items, sorry, you can split it up. So we would recommend you to rather split it up to ensure that your program still works very nicely. Okay, I've already created mine. Creating it works quite similar to the way Tina showed to create additional working papers, but let's jump right into the working papers. So we're going to jump around a bit on the sheet on here, just simply to ease the flow of how the working paper works. So if you look on the guidance sheet, we will select the component here that we will be testing on this sampling working paper. So on here, you will see all the components listed that was already addressed in the planning that Joni took us through so nicely. So we're going to select revenue. Okay, then we're going to jump all the way till the very last sheet called pastel. So on here is basically where you will be pasting your GL. So I have my pastel GL here. You will see, if you are familiar with pastel, that this GL is exactly the way I get it from pastel. So it's the raw GL. I haven't changed anything on it. And that's what's great about the pastel one. You don't have to amend anything on the GL. You can use it as it is here. So I'm going to select all my information again. I can use Control-C to copy, or I can use the option here on the right click button. If I go back to Draftworx, very important, don't use Control-V, don't just paste it, use paste special, very, very, very important. Okay. After we've pasted, you guys will see that we're sitting with a hashtag num issue here. Not something we ever want to see. So something to note, especially on the pastel one, is to ensure that the settings here at the top agrees to the information that you've pasted here at the bottom. So you will see that my date format, for example, shows date, date, month, month, and then 4-year options. However, my dates only show date, date, month, month, year, year. Very important to therefore go and select the correct format on the drop down, and you will see instantly that hashtag nums disappeared. And my problem is solved with regards to that. Okay, that's the only thing that I want to show you on this sheet. Then we're going to jump over to population check. If it shows nothing after you've pasted your GL, Please don't fear, just scroll up. Sometimes it does show the information, and because the list is quite short, it doesn't show the full list. So the moment you scroll up, you can actually see the information on here. So you will see Draftworx automatically group the sections quite nicely as per the GL. So then it pulls the information from the working trial balance as well. So if I jump to my working trial balance and I go look for this account, this is the balance that I will find on my working trial balance. The balance in this column that says population or balance in population comes from the pastel sheet where I've just pasted my GL. And then Draftworx compares your working trial balance to your GL to like have a teeny bit of a completeness test included in here. Still very important to also perform your own completeness test. Okay. So then it shows opening the moment they do match, or you see this very red cell, which we know we don't ever want to see in the working papers. And that is basically coming from the TB and the population or the GL not agreeing. So you will see there's a difference there, and I will have to go and investigate what the reason for the difference is. It can be due to a journal that's been passed additionally in Draftworx that was never posted in pastel, and therefore I have a difference. But there can also be something as simple as these two look the same. They still have a red cell, and the reason for that is we apply rounding in here, and sometimes it's simply a rounding difference. So you can then decide, use your professional skepticism, if you would like to solve it so it doesn't show as a difference, or you can leave it there if the difference is trivial. Okay. On this sheet, you will also select which items to include in your GL, in your sample. So for this case, you will see I have income and expenses listed on here, but I only want to test sales because I'm testing for the revenue component. So I'm going to mark it with a yes here. The moment it's marked with a yes and I jump back to the sheet where my GL is pasted, you will see there's a sampleable column, and only the line items related to sales will show yes. The rest will show no. Okay, so that's just how you would change that. Okay, done with these two sheets, we're going to jump all the way back to the front. So on this sample size calc is where you have quite a bit of automation coming in, and where you also have to do some work as well. So at the top, you will see the risk or the assurance levels acquired for each assertion. These assurance levels pulls from working paper 1605. Very important to note, if they are not correct, you need to go back to planning and look into that. If, however, you are happy with these, but as we are testing revenue, it is a significant item. We want to select the sample on the highest level. We can always go to this little cell here, and we can override the risk level or the assurance level that's listed here. So I'm going to go and I'm going to select significant. That obviously affects my sample size, and we're all happy with that. Then we can also go and select which assertions we would like to cover. So I'm going to select occurrence, I'm going to select accuracy, and that's the assertions I would like to cover with this sampling working paper. Please note, if you do not select completeness and occurrence on the same sampling working paper, the only reason for that is that the source documents that you are using to test those two assertions are different. Okay. Jumping to the next section. These amounts pulls directly from the GL that I've posted. It's all of the amounts together. And then I also have Draftworx pull in the information of my lead schedule. So I can go and hyperlink my lead here. And if you have a quick look with me, you will see there's a difference between these two amounts. The only reason for that happening is that with the hyperlink from the lead, or the amount from the lead, is the net to amount. So that means debits and credits offset from one another. Whereas the amount from the population is the absolute values, meaning taking positive debit plus positive credit and getting to a total. Okay, so it's not an issue if that's a difference in there. You can go and check it on your GL to ensure that you do have debits and credits offsetting from one another. Okay. Then we also have the total number of transactions in our GL listed here. Going onwards, the next action, we have our material line items. So Draftworx groups all the material line items and gives you one large amount of the value of all the material items, and then also how many transactions is material in your GL. If I just jump back to my pastel sheet where I've pasted the GL, you will see there's a material item column which is marked yes to all of the line items that's material. So very important to set up your materiality before you do the sampling working papers, as Draftworx will then automatically identify your material line items for you in the GL, which is fantastic. Okay. Then we're sitting with the key items. So if you have any key items that you would like to test that should be tested separately, these cannot be selected by Draftworx as we don't have anything to compare it to. So therefore, on the GL sheet, once again, we have a key item column. And say, for example, this line item is a key item. I'm just going to come to the drop down and say yes. Very unlikely that a little amount like that would be a key item, but in this case, it will be. Okay. Jumping back to the sample size calc, we can now see the amount of that transaction pulling through, and it also pulls through that there's one key item marked. Then we get to action 7. This is where the rest of your interaction or work needs to be done. The very first thing you will see is the remainder amount. So that is calculated by taking the total population, deducting your material items, and deducting your key items to get to the remainder. You then also sit here with your remainder amount of transactions in the GL. Then there's 4 little questions here. You will see for all of them, we do have drop-down options. You would have to use your professional skepticism and your knowledge of the client to complete these questions. If I mark them all yes, or these 2 yes, I'm just going to leave that and leave my entity size on small. It will only show a calculation of the sample size, and the max sample size will be not applicable. However, if the audit had a qualification in the last 5 years and I mark it as a no, we do suggest a max sample size. It will still depend on your professional skepticism what sample size you will be testing. For our instance, I'm going to leave it as a yes. Then, if you come down here, you will see your sample size that we suggest is 25. You need to select anything equal or higher than the 25.01. You cannot select anything lower. So I'm going to select 26. Very important to put that in there. And then you would also document a reason for your sample selection or why you had selected the 26. A little cell that I left out, this random decimal, you will see it should actually show as a red cell like that. If you look at the random decimal, this is a cell or a decimal value that we simply use to determine where we start selecting your sampling. So that just ensures that there's no human intervention in the selection of the sample. So we suggest that you use equal rand, open, close brackets, and press enter. That basically just gives Draftworx the chance to go and select a random decimal, and you don't select anything or interfere with the selection of this decimal. Something important that I do want to bring under your attention is that you don't just leave it as equals rand or the formula as it is at the moment. The reason for it, if you can take note, my decimal is currently 0.19. If I move over to a different sheet and I come back, that decimal updated. So you need to go and you need to say copy and paste value, our best friend. Go say paste value, and there you will see it's no longer formulated, it actually has a decimal value now. Very important, you do not want this decimal to change. Every time it's going to change, your sample is going to change. So if you select it, you forget to change the decimal or change the formula value, paste it, you will send off your sample to the client, and when you come back into the working paper to perform the work, the sample has changed, and that's not what you want. So therefore, very important. Okay, I'm going to skip the procedure details just for a moment. We'll get back to that. And then we're going to do or look at the sample testing. So on the sample testing, you will see that Draftworx automatically groups all the material items together for you. And then if you just scroll down, your key items are listed here. And if you scroll down a bit more, the remainder sample is then selected by Draftworx and also inserted in here for you. Okay. Something I just want to touch on quickly, because we do get a bit of questions on it, and that is my sample size I selected was 26. We only see 21 line items here, and that is simply because the amount of times a transaction has been selected. So I just quickly want to not overcomplicate anything, but just show you where we get to that. So we use systematic sampling, and with that we also make use of intervals. So on the way to go and calculate that interval, we take the remainder sample portion and we divide it by the sample size that we select. So if I use my calculator and I go to 1219278 divided by the 26, that would be my interval. Therefore, any amount in my GL that is larger than this interval amount has the possibility of being selected more than once. Okay, so that is the short and long of it. So if you have an amount and it is higher than that interval amount, it can be selected more than once, and therefore it can show it twice on here. Okay. If you are not happy with this way that the program selects it, please then use your own sampling working paper, or you can simply test these and then just document that you've been using computer assisted audit techniques to select your sample.
Bianca,
Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. We are actually out of time. I just want to reiterate that the other working paper will work the exact same, with the exception of the population sheet will be copied in a tiny bit different. This is the end of our webinar series, right? So it's quite a sad day actually, but I would just like to thank, from Draftworx's side, I would like to thank Shane as well. So thank you so much, Shane. Thank you for running everything smoothly. Thank you for all the certificates that you've sent out and bearing with us and all of our talking, and we are never-ending talkers. To all of the presenters, everyone that was involved in presenting all of the webinars, thank you so much. And then the Q&A guys, thank you so much for doing this on each and every webinar. And then lastly, which is definitely not the least, is everyone who attended. Without you guys, I don't think anything will be possible, and probably we wouldn't even have a job. Thank you from our side. Thank you so much to everyone that attended. And hopefully we will be seeing you guys very, very soon.